Hi, welcome to Leaders of Africa Hangouts. My name is Eva. It is great to be with you, and I'll be your host for today's Hangout. Leaders of Africa Hangouts is a live bi-weekly show on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. UTC. Hangouts are informative, interactive, and informal. We invite you to discuss and interact with us. And please remember to hit the subscribe button on YouTube and the bell to receive notification for all of our Leaders of Africa new content. For those of you who are new to Leaders of Africa mobilizes the power of research and creative expression to advance equity, justice, and selfless leadership with a distinctly Pan-African, community-oriented, and interactive approach. Today, we are joined by Mr. Abdulrazaq Adams to speak on the topic, Civic Tech, Technology in Africa's Sociopolitical Development. Abdulrazaq is a data scientist, entrepreneur, researcher. He's also the founder of Veegil Media, a platform dedicated to transforming society with technology. He earned his doctorate in chemical engineering at the University of Michigan. Abdulrazaq's interests span across education, technology, research, civil engagement, business, and the socioeconomic development of Africa. Please join me to welcome Abdulrazaq to hang out with us today. Hi, Razaq. Welcome.
Hi, Eva. Thanks for having me.
Very glad to have you here today.
Thanks for the introduction. Today I'll be talking about civic tech and its role of technology generally in Africa's sociopolitical development. So as we go on in this talk, I would like to get engagement from the audience, and I believe this is a topic in which we all have some form of experience about, and we can share experiences. So I hope to learn from you guys as much as I'm presenting today. So if we look across Africa, we have different political systems. We have democracy in a huge part of Africa. There's autocracy in Africa, oligarchy. We have monarchies. We've had military rule, and in very many local parts in Africa, we have a lot of chiefdoms. When you look at these political systems, they usually have a leadership followership construct. And in this construct, you typically have at the backbone of that policies, issues being raised or enacted. And like with any other relationship, communication is key. What we've seen across board in most, and what's common to most of these systems of governance that we've had or we've tried at different instances in Africa, is that there seems to be a breakdown in that connection, in that communication. And this type of communication is what we call basically the political discourse that has to do with all the matters that are relevant to that society. What we'll find across Africa in these different systems is that there's a lethargic political discourse. It's usually very weak. It's not as vibrant as you would hope that it should be. And the organizations, you also have social organizations that form around government and governance and society at large. Many of them tend to be unimpactful because they also cannot really communicate as much. And the outcome we see across bodies, once you have this breakdown in communication, when you don't have this vibrant political discourse, then what results is bad governance. You have governance that is not really working for the people, right? You have like a misstep or a lag between the leaders and the followers in that community. We also see a lot of corruption. We see a lack of checks and balancing. And in fact, to a large extent, it results in dictatorship. So most of my talk today, I'll try to center around the political discourse, because I want to argue that is the bedrock of civic engagement. That is how we get started in society. So when you look at the traditional way in which many governments and societies generally in Africa have actually communicated with their people, the arena in which political and social discourse has taken place has usually been the traditional media. Things like radio, television, newspapers, These tend to be very regulated and government controlled. So they tend to be very one way. They are not as interactive as we'd hope. And sometimes you have things like town halls, right? When people seek elections or there are some issues to discuss, they call town halls. Many of these have been useful for a long time. But in today's world, we've come to see their inefficiencies, right? We also have something that I would like to point out here, in my native country of Nigeria, that we call the stomach infrastructure. And what we mean by this is that, you see, during election periods, you see, people vying for elections, political officers, they all come out and substitute basically this political discourse. Instead of discussing what they are going to go into the office to do, they will just bring food and some items that people need and basically give that to the people in exchange for any form of discourse. So this is something that basically, is the entrenchment of corruption in the political system and basically makes leaders, to go into office and just, work for themselves as opposed to addressing the needs of the people. What we've seen, in the last decade, or a decade and a half is the influence, of social media. The internet has come, Africa has, there's a huge penetration of mobile devices in Africa. And we've seen a lot of people, starting to turn to, social media. The good thing about that is that it's more interactive. And so you see, some people vying for office, politicians, you see even the electorate, the citizens generally, they go on there and try to have these, political conversations. So you see people go on Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Nairaland, and the likes, and try to, have these conversations. But certain, problems, beleaguer this, form of political discourse. First and foremost is that these platforms are not purpose-built. So they are general communication, platforms. You tend to see a whole bunch of, things going on there. A lot of jests, largely for entertainment purposes. And so they don't really, do great justice to the very important needs of the people. Also, we've seen in recent times, there's been a lot of fake news, a lot of misinformation, on these platforms. There's been propaganda. And generally, you find that there's a dearth of meaningful conversations on this platform. And even at times when you try to see the conversations tend to be very, very, cumbersome. It's not orderly. You can't really make sense of what is, being said, on the platforms. And I just put this quote here, and I think it's very, very, instructive here, where it says, you can form connections with politically engaged people on social media, but that doesn't mean you'll be able to change policy or that all these connections will be for good. And that's a quote, by Dr. James Dennis. So, you see that, it's not just about having those connections. It's not just about the social media and the speech and all those writings that people do. But it's being able to impact change to the policies being discussed. And that is, the next leap we feel that, we need, to be able to connect, and rebuild that leader, follower construct we have in many communities in Africa.
Abdulrazaq, before you go on, in this era of COVID-19, there have been a lot of webinars talking about a lot of issues and also try to reach to the public, giving them the right information about what is going on. And governments are also using some of this media. How do you think the information is being received through the channel of webinars?
I think it's a good inclusion into the mix of tools we have available, especially on the internet. We know that with COVID-19, many people can't come into halls and have all these town halls and have these kind of grassroots ways in which we typically disseminate information. So having those are actually helpful. However, many of those webinars too, you see that they tend to be limited in the reach and how many people you could get across to. It's a good addition. I mean, we can have as many tools in the toolbox. But I think eventually what we need in Africa, and what I'm going to argue going forward, is that we need more solutions to be mainstream and basically purpose built to address our issue.
All right, thank you. Please continue.
Here today, I'm going to discuss a couple of solutions that actually try to address things in the civic engagement space in Africa. I'll be talking about, I'll be going through the likes of Budget, GothChat, Follow the Money, Shahidi, and of course Veegil, which I'm a part of. So let's look at what solutions tech has brought to the space in Africa, to the civic space in Africa. As I mentioned, we have a lot of issues with the communication, right, in Africa. Most of the systems we have, there's usually a disconnect. Budget is one of those organizations that have actually been doing a good job in trying to communicate to the people, especially in things relating to budgets, public matters, finance, spending, and things like that. And they make a lot of visualizations, infographics, and things like that to simplify those data and make it accessible to people. So they're basically informing people of what their governments are doing and making it in very consumable bits in which people can actually relate with. And so we've seen that these actually drive some form of engagement and further discussions about these policies. And it has, in fact, forced transparency and accountability in government, because previously, you would have some of this information just sit in some nondescript government website, and now they are helping to bring things like that forth. Another solution I'm discussing here is Follow the Money. This is basically an initiative to address, the corruption and inefficiencies in government. So basically, when government does stuff, it's supposed to be a public engagement, right? Most governments are not like private institutions that they tend to keep their books under lock and key. So what these organizations are doing, just like Budget too, is to make sure that they democratize the data and make it available to everyone. And they, in fact, also go to rural communities and track and monitor those projects to see that they're actually being implemented. And in that way, they can weed out some corruption. A very good one here, also Shahidi. It's a software development platform from Kenya, I believe. This platform is basically a platform that monitors and maps incidents. So this has been used for things like election monitoring, aggregating data. It has been used in crisis response and incidents. And this is something that's been used across Africa, and people can actually use it for real-time data tracking. Things like these are important, especially when we're trying to communicate to a large number of people, or trying to aggregate data from a large number of people. And this is something that helps government to citizen communication or leader to follow communication. Mm-hmm.
So Razak, thank you for that. So like, what exactly is civic tech? Is it just like you look for a computer and you just go on a website and you are communicating with other people? And also, is it something that is catching up in other countries, apart from the one that you've shown us here, in some African countries?
Civic tech generally is just used to refer to any general technology or any form of media that you could use in engaging civically in society generally. So some of the solutions I've shown so far, you see that many of them are trying to address maybe specific problems, like, for instance, Budget trying to address maybe something like budgets and financial matters. Having that platform or that construct, right, where people can go to and get information, exchange information, I think that's the main essence of most civic tech. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So when you look at it, many of these are also being built on the backbone of social media. Some of them, like Ushahidi, are actually software that is actually built from ground up to address those concerns. So Tracker, I think this is one of those offshoot projects that does something similar to Follow the Money, as I mentioned earlier, where they basically track implementation of projects and see whether public finances are actually being used to better the lives of people. Here is another such civic tech platforms. And this is GothChat. I think it's based in South Africa, and they have some operations in Ghana. This is one of those examples of where folks have built platforms to actually address specifically government to citizen communication. So, for instance, in the light of COVID-19, GothChat has been very instrumental in South Africa to disseminate information to people, like where can they get their mask, where can they get testing and stuff like that. So those are the kind of things that makes government more efficient when they have the ability to actually communicate with people, fluidly, and have that communication to be a two-way communication, back and forth from their citizens to the government and also the government to the citizens. They've also tried to help connect people to their representatives and provide identity for the citizens with the government. So these are some of the areas in which, compared to what we had before the advent of the civic tech and all the social media, these are things that were hitherto not possible because government didn't just have a way of getting that feedback from the people. And many governments also struggle with things like identifying who is their citizens, and basically knowing the person you're to serve should be one of the first things that we should look forward to doing. Here I would also mention about Veegil, what we're doing in Veegil. So basically, Veegil is a platform that is basically purpose created to facilitate the civic engagement. And when we look across Africa, we see that there's basically no purpose-built platform for having these political conversations. So the political discourse, usually, as I mentioned, most cases still goes on the TV, the radio, and that's how policies are being disseminated. And as I mentioned earlier, even when you go on social media, there are all these issues of jest, fallacies, and code that just make it inefficient. So what we're doing in Veegil is to build a core of features that would actually help address this lack of meaningful political conversations. So what we're doing is we're assembling features. Central to that is the debate platform, and in that we are trying to provide means for people to actually discuss policies, for people to discuss issues that relate to them. So when you look at political conversations, usually you have different sides to those conversations, and we feel it's very important for us to be able to get the information from all sides. So we pay a lot of attention in designing the tool for that purpose, so that you can actually go through those conversations and make sense of what the different sides of the debate are saying. So it's not just going to be jumbled together where you can really make sense of what's going on. We also are looking for ways in which we can ensure that the problems that beleaguer most of the other social platforms or civic tech out there, that they don't really creep into this. So we built a tool which we call Verilog, which is a tool we use for addressing misinformation that we can use to fact check information on the platform. We also, are building tools that would attract other people to the platform, like politicians, building tools that you can use for electioneering and things like election monitoring. And so we hope to be able to get a host of people or different segments of societies, like the NGOs, the journalists, the sociopolitical analysts and researchers, and even the media, to all come to this arena, which we're creating, this social platform, Veegil, and be able to exchange information and trade things of value. I would just speak a little more about Verilog. We feel this is a very important aspect of what we're doing. As we could see in the recent elections, for instance, in US 2016-2020 election, propaganda and a lot of misinformation was a big deal. So when you throw things like that into the political conversation, you could actually have people believe things that are not true. Right? So truth is very important, and we feel that needs special attention. So we don't want issues where people would come on and just spread lies or misinformation. So with this tool, we enable people to be able to fact check any piece of information on the platform, and we hope that this tool can be taken to even outside of the platform and used generally on the web as a utility, where they can discuss the veracity of claims and statements, and people can be given a sense of confidence on that information that they're actually being presented to, and be able to make more sense or at least clarify and get more details about those information before consuming them. So these are some of the tools we're actually building within Veegil, and I think what we see overall is that we hope that when we have many of these kind of organizations, civic tech, I think that the space is wide enough. There are a lot of opportunities out there for technology to be used in our polity. And what we expect to come out of this is that we have a vibrant sociopolitical discourse arena or platform. We hope that there will be more accountability and transparency in government. We also believe that with more of these kind of civic tech platforms, you start to see government get more efficient and effective, in things like communication, in things like service delivery, and basically start to see government work more for the people. And in the least, we also think that we could actually create access to leadership.
Abdulrazaq, I just want to, there was a question about fact checking. We just talk about the fact that there's so much misinformation going on right now. And we've seen what has happened to Facebook, that they have billions of people that have subscribed to this platform. And it's so hard for them to fact check or some of the misinformation that comes on their platform. So how do you hope to do that with Veegil in case you have like 100 million subscribers? And is there any tool behind Veegil that is able to like screen the content that comes in? Or you have an editor that is a group of editors that are going into the website to make sure that the information there are right? Like, how do you hope to fast check in this era where people are just pumping in so much information?
Yeah. So the key thing we want to do in Veegil with Verilog is that behind Verilog, a set of complex algorithms that would basically do this work. So I think when you have a lot of information at that scale, you can't really go and have humans basically go through all this information. So what we hope to deploy here, or what we're trying to deploy here, is a set of algorithms that would go in, look at those information, have a set of knowledge, right, that is available on the web as a background to be able to automatically detect some information. And also, we are also empowering people. So we are crowdsourcing the fact checking. So you as an individual on the platform, you see something that you're not really sure about, or you think is a misinformation, you could basically just highlight that particular information and start a Verilog on it. And so you're basically starting that fact checking, and whoever put up that information will be notified that someone is actually fact-checking the information that they put forward, and they have the opportunity to also defend the information to say if that is true or false. So we hope to create that debate, and we're basically democratizing it making it such that anyone can actually fact check any information. And then we'll be backing that up with a lot of algorithms to help in that process.
There's a question from Jalili. He wants to know, how does Veegil Civic Tech differs from other debating and political engagement platforms?
So basically, I think the first thing that Veegil uses to differentiate ourselves here is the fact that we're providing, as I've said, this kind of truth-first approach to the way we're doing the debate. And also we are making tools available to ensure that the debate is not a traditional form of debates that we've seen online. We're actually trying to ensure that it is simplified and streamlined so that people can understand the arguments for or against that are present in a particular debate or discussion. So we're very focused on the consumers and people participants in the debate here, and we are trying to make sure that they can make or deliver or leave those debates with a clear sense of actionable change that they could actually do. So going back to the quote I mentioned, so we're not just about trying to connect people or just have people come and have these discussions. We're kind of focused on the issues that they're discussing and trying to make sure that it makes sense of them, such that they could leave those debates with a clearer sense of what's next to do on the platform. Additionally, we are also going to be a multi-sided platform, right? So we bring in the political leaders, the political class and actors into this sphere, by providing them tools that are useful for them. And hopefully when they come to the table, right, then they can actually get to understand what policies, what people are saying about the policies they're proposing, the debates that people are having about things that they want to do. Then they can see those. And at the same time, they could also use the platform to propose policy changes, to propose things that they're willing to do. And basically that creates that two-way communication that we've long lost in our socio-political environments in Africa.
Yeah, thank you, Abdul. There's one question from Juliana. She wants to know, how accessible are these platforms given data poverty among Africans? How accessible is Veegil? Will Veegil be to the average African?
So Veegil can be accessed on the web, veegil.com. We are currently in our alpha development, and we're working towards getting to beta, where we'll have a robust launch to the world. And it's going to be available in mobile apps, on the web to Africans. We understand that there's this data poverty, right? And so one of the things we're doing is we're also being conscious of how we're building the technology so that it's not data heavy. It doesn't really require maybe the latest and the greatest of tech to be able to run. So we want to ensure that we have versions of it that will be available to even those with text-based web browsers and things of that nature, so that even people with just even 2G networks can actually go on there and still be participants in the debate. I would like to chime in there, like in some of my discussions with stakeholders. Like I discussed with someone that was involved on the grassroots, and basically what she made me realize was that their constituents, for instance, many of them don't really have the iPhones and the Samsung Galaxies, right? So there's concern as to how the majority of Africans that are offline will be able to participate in this. So that's something we are taking into account, and we're trying to build into what we're doing so that we can make sure that there's access across board. Because the issues that will be discussed on the platform anyways are issues that are relevant to those, in urban areas as well as those in the rural.
Yeah, thank you so much. Before you go on, I would like to invite Jalili. Jalili has his hand raised. Jalili, can you unmute yourself to speak?
Thank you so much for this brilliant presentation, Dr. Abdulrazaq. What I'd like to know is that could you please elucidate on the outlook of the debating platform and its possible applicability to stakeholders other than those in politics. Because it does appear to me that what you are speaking to may have varied applications. Maybe somebody is producing something and they like to introduce a product and they possibly want to know whether that product, how people perceive the product, what they like about the product, what they dislike about the product, and what they like to see change in the product before the eventual introduction of the product to the market. So I was wondering if there is such a possibility for the extended utility of the platforms you guys are creating at Veegil to spheres other than political. Thank you. And I also want to know how the outlook of this debated platform, we've been speaking about it. Could we get some more granular details about the outlook of the debated platform? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jalili, for that question. So, in terms of the use of the platform, whilst, as I have mentioned, the focus has been on the policies, the issues, and things like that. What we've seen generally is that when you create these platforms or civic tech and social media generally, the users eventually decide what they will use it for, right? What we're providing is a utility, as you've rightly described. So this utility, we put it out there. We have a sense of what the first customer is, but it will be very difficult to tell what the 1 millionth customer would use it for. Mm-hmm. So as you mentioned, it's going to be very accessible to people to use for, in fact, any form of campaign, right? So we would have in there, not just for a politician, for instance, trying to campaign about a policy or about themselves going for election, but you could have someone that is maybe an activist wanting to campaign about maybe climate change. They could use that to do the same, or a business executive that wants to maybe campaign on their product, want to say more about it, and these are things that are available for people to use. And I believe there will be more use cases that we're probably not thinking of right now that people will get to use it for. But one thing we pride ourselves, and I'll give a lot of credit to my team too, is that we try to react to people's commentary, the feedback, and so we are very receptive of that, and we would continue to monitor the platform and see that we are making it suitable for whatever use cases that it comes to be used for later in life. So going to your second question about the debate platform that we're creating right now. So the way in which it's constructed is, as a user, you can come on the platform, put up an issue that you're interested in discussing. So for instance, you can write about a specific policy that is being debated in your community. You write something like that, and you can give a background or a context to that. So once you do that, then people can discuss whether they're in support of it or whether they are against it. So there's the way we've structured it is such that you have a range of diverse issues or points that can be made. So then there will be standpoints for those that support and those that are against that point. And that really brings focus to the comments that come to those topics. So you can continue to see nested views of supporting comments or opposing comments or in fact neutral comments to previous comments that have been made relating to a particular topic. So we believe this makes it very streamlined and an easy way to see or to be able to see through the political debate, and it can increase basic understanding of the debate.
All right, thank you. Please continue.
All right. So as I was saying, so one of the things, as I've mentioned, is that we hope to be able to get access to leadership, right? So when you have on the same platform, politicians, media, business, NGOs, activists, journalists, and the likes, and everyday citizens on the same platform. That increase in or that proximity, we believe, would drive a lot of communication and engagement, and there will be a lot of access to those leaders from that. Also, I believe that with every addition of civic tech into the conversation here, it's one step towards fighting corruption. Right? We know corruption is rampant in Africa. Most of the government inefficiencies and mediocrities are actually having corruption as the root cause. So hopefully, as we continue to make data accessible, make issues accessible to people to discuss, make sure that information is being exchanged, and people are aware of what's going on in their communities and in their government. We hope that things like this will be able to fight corruption, and we've already seen the impact of that in some parts of Africa where these are going. But I must also note here that it's not an easy task. It's not easy to actually fight corruption because it fights back. So we must utilize these civic technologies we have at our disposal to first and foremost educate ourselves and understand what is going on. So we have this relative, I say, carefreeness of the citizens, and that really helps to promote the corrupt leaders. Because when they find that you're not really watching, then it makes it much more easy for those kind of crimes to be perpetrated. But the more people are engaged, the more people are aware of these things and use these tools, learn about what's going on, learn about the monies that are being spent in their communities, and demand to see that they're being used for the reasons in which they've been allotted or appropriated for. Then we can start to fight corruption in Africa. I would just like to thank you for the opportunity to speak here. I would like to encourage your audience to sign up at Veegil.com and follow us on social media. And I would like to encourage them to of course, use the various tools that are available to them in terms of civic tech. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abdulrazaq, for this insightful presentation and also introducing us to civic tech. I feel like it's a very good thing. It is a very good thing. And it's also one way, as you talk about it, fighting corruption on the continent, bringing our views on some of these issues that have been going on and distracting and destroying our society. So for me, my question is that, how do you get politicians to actually go on this website, on Veegil, to look at the opinions of people and add it to their policy decision making? Because you and I are in Africa and we know what the issues are, that we talk to our politicians, we tell them things going on in our society, but they don't listen to us. They go on to do what they have to do. So that is why we are where we are, because our politicians don't care about the voices of the ordinary people. So how do you get them to use this platform to listen to the opinions of people in their own society, to enact policies that actually benefit all of us?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And that's something that has always resonated with me. Like, how do we get the politicians on board? How do we get the leaders on board? So many would consider this maybe the chicken or egg problem, right? But I think it's a simple problem. The solution is there. You have the people on board, the politicians will come. Because for one, they want to basically spread their message, right? This is something we've seen traditionally occur maybe once in every 4 years when there's an election season. People come in and just talk to people, and going back to like the stomach infrastructure I spoke about, give people a bag of rice and I'll see you in the next 4 years when I need your votes, right? So that's something that occurs. But the way we want to address this is we want to actually give them something of value. It's a case of giving them the vegetables, with the dessert. So they really want the dessert, which is that thing of value to them. And that, for us, we think largely will be the tools that would enable them to be able to, campaign better, to be more, to be more efficient in doing that. And so we want to provide them, these electioneering tools. And, when we give that to them, they find it to be of value, then they're more willing to participate on the platform. So this is the hope here, that, as we can get more and more people sign up, more and more people discussing the issues, they of course would see the issues. They of course would in the least, they would pretend to address it. But so long as we have them on there, they will continue to see, what is being said, and we'll try to, especially with a lot of the opposition leaders. You see, they're always looking to be on the side of people. They're always willing to listen. So these are our prime audience here, and we feel we can always get them on board. So once they have something of value for them in it, right, and we've provided those tools for them to be able to do what they care about, but that would actually bring them in close proximity to the people and the debates and the policy issues that is going on. And our intention is we want to make it as fluid and seamless as possible, where you're on the platform, you can basically interact with anyone as easily as possible. So and part of, to address that question, one of the things we hope would happen here is when we make these tools available to them, that even some of the citizens that we have now that have always thought of maybe campaigning for an office or enacting certain changes, but they've always thought of it as a daunting task. I don't think I can do this all on my own. I need X, Y, Z to be set in place. Then they could see these resources being available to them, the same electioneering tools, and basically take advantage of them. And some of them could actually become the politicians. And so we hope to have that cross-pollination of people, to play both sides. And everyone is a leader and at the same time a follower, right? In certain respect. So we feel we can, in fact, recruit more people to become political leaders in their communities by expanding their voices and giving them that platform to be able to reach out to others.
All right, thank you. Do you have target countries, or you are just starting with Nigeria for now? What are your target countries?
Yeah. They said charity begins at home, right? So that's where we're starting in Nigeria. But the way we're constructing it is going to be country independent. But we understand that governance, changes form and structure from country to country. So as more and more people join, we hope to address that and make sure that they can actually easily form connections with their institutions. So part of what we want to achieve here is we want to make the institutions also accessible. So that's part of what we're trying to do here. So we want to make them accessible so that people can relate with them. And of course, if you say, I'm from a certain country, we would make sure that algorithms can always point you to things relating to that country. And even if you're not from that country, but you care about what's going on, because a lot of times the problems are the same across borders, right? And so people can actually learn from the conversations going on in other countries, which before now has been a lot difficult, right? Because we all rely on traditional media to do that. But if we have that proximity with our relatives from other countries, then we can all get that conversation going, and we can learn from one another in the process.
Yeah, thank you. My question, why won't you start in a country like, say, Sudan, Niger, Cameroon, or Mozambique? Because most of us don't hear from these countries. We don't really hear much about these countries. And I feel like whenever someone is doing something, they want to experiment it in either Nigeria or Ghana or Kenya. So why not Niger? Why not Mozambique and some of these countries, so that we also hear what they have to say?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the common thread in those countries you mentioned, they're that they are English-speaking countries. I think as a byproduct of the colonial era, many Africans have been separated by language. So you see folks in Nigeria, for instance, they don't look to their neighbors in Benin or Togo for interactions. They skip over those two countries and go to Ghana, right? It's usually because of the language, right? So one of our hopes is that once we get a foothold in Nigeria and we can thrive in that sphere, we want to go into the French-speaking world, especially starting from West Africa. When you look at West Africa, there are just 4 English-speaking nations, and the majority, about 13 others, are actually French-speaking. So there's a lot more room to cover and in there. But I think the language is the major barrier, and I think we can get over that by translating the website to different languages and doing that, and making sure that we can even implement things like automatic translations for people to be able to benefit from conversations across borders.
All right, thank you. I would like to call Mr. Goke. I saw your hand raised earlier. Will you please unmute yourself and speak?
Okay, excellent. Good day, everyone. What? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. I think he's spoken about what I was going to talk about, which is also in the area of translating the website. This is awesome idea. And I'm just going to ask you that, why wouldn't I be able to comment as a guest? That's one. Why do I have to register? Considering the fact that I'll probably want to consider some security issues. My data also, I also want to be wary of the fact that, okay, I hope my data is not going to the politicians. All right. And I'm sure that you are aware of, budgeting and the fact that it became part of the government also. So are you looking at all of this and saying that, okay, you know what? You can create a debate and you can get all these discussions going on, yeah? And without necessarily sharing your data with us. All right.
Okay. I think that's a very good consideration, but there are certain things that go with that. Let me address first one of the reasons why we ask people to sign up. The core reason is that we're building this platform around the people, right? So we want people to be able to connect with others. So if everyone comes on the platform as guests, quote unquote guests, and not really have a profile on the platform, then it becomes very difficult to be able to make that meaningful connections for them. That's the first thing. Then secondly, while we ask people to register, we have created the platform in such a way that, and with subsequent updates, you start to see that people can actually willfully put in their information if they want to. And if they choose not to, they may not put in their information. So you can sign up with a username, right? And that username could be anything you choose. You could have your name on there if you choose to. But we feel that we need to have an identity for folks on the platform, especially because we realize that with things like politics and policies and issues like that being discussed, some people would use it, negatively also to their advantage. Just come on the platform, say whatever they want to say, spread misinformation or lies or whatever. But we want to be able to temper that. So that is why we need to be able to identify folks on the platform and be able to basically identify what they're doing. Basically, you're debating with someone, you want to know who you're debating with to some extent, right? But how much they know about you would be the decision of the individual. Additionally, what I'm going to say is that we generally want to ensure that people are free on the platform, right? To be able to express themselves. So we're working on some tools where we could actually in some cases, allow users to be able to anonymize themselves, especially when they want to put up information that they feel might be sensitive, and they want to maybe whistleblow, stuff like that. But that's something we're still discussing the philosophy of about in-house, and we're looking at the best way to implement it in such a way that it's not going to be abused by other folks on the platform. I think it's important for people to get registered. The experience will be better, and you can be rest assured that your data will be very secure and kept secured and not shared with anyone. Our integrity is something we take seriously, and we of course have our privacy policies and data policies and things like that on our website. So you can go ahead and check those out. We want to reassure you that your data will be secure, it's going to be safe, it's not going to be shared with anyone, except things that you probably have shared publicly. No one will be able to find any, or we're not going to be sharing your data with any third party.
Yeah, thank you, Lukman. Thank you, Abdul. There's a question from Joseph. He wants to know, how do you manage classified information, especially where freedom of information does not exist? You know, we've been having issues on the continent where some politicians are cracking down on freedom of information. So how do you ensure that some information that people are shared are protected and their freedom of information is not infringed upon?
So largely, I think that's a very, very legit concern. When you look at it, we want to make sure that people have access to information, right? So as I mentioned earlier, if the custodian of that information is the government, for instance, then there's nothing we could do about it. You just have to petition, right, to get access to such information. However, in some situations where we feel that maybe folks may benefit from having certain information that may not be public. We are in discussion, as I mentioned earlier, to enable things like these anonymous messaging or whistleblowing, so that people can actually still put forth those information. But Veegil basically is not going to be the custodian of the information or an arbiter in this case too. We are just going to be a platform. We're going to be a utility on which people could actually share different information. But this is something we are debating internally. We're looking to even throw out that initiative to the open, so that others can actually also debate along with us to see whether it's going to be in our best interest to enable people to be able to put out such information. We also understand that sometimes some information may be may have some public value to it, or some benefits for people to know about, but it could also be damaging in terms of national security and stuff like that. So I think this is an area where we have to tread carefully and make sure we have the necessary controls and mechanisms to regulate that. And as I mentioned, we want to ensure that people don't abuse it. So part of the things we look to implement in there would be a kind of a platform value system where people could actually earn the trust of the platform to be able to access some of these abilities, like maybe anonymous messaging. So even if we allow things like that, it's not going to be automatically open to everyone, right? People would have seen that you have a certain level of trustworthiness on the platform, and then we can allow folks to have such access.
All right, thank you. I would like to call on Dagrula Ahmed Okoyi to unmute yourself and, if possible, your camera to speak. Can you unmute yourself to speak, Dagrula?
Now?
We can hear you. You are muted. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, just two questions for Mr. Abdulrazaq Adam. I would like to know how you would be able to control a situation whereby issues resort to confrontational matters as well as abusive and disrespect for other people's opinions on your platform. Then the second one is, how will you be able to make sure that your platform is not turned to a one-sided political view? Because we have seen in some of our countries whereby some seemingly used to be news agencies subsequently becomes the mouthpiece of some political parties. Those are my questions. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks. So thanks for the question. So I think, as I mentioned, it kind of piggybacks on what I said earlier, about we having a platform, trust system. I think that's very important for us to be able to, decide on what voices are we amplifying, right? And when I'm saying trust, it doesn't mean we're looking at it from, a political standpoint. We're more or less just looking at it from the veracity of the information that you're putting forth, right? Especially as it has to do with, misinformation and propaganda and the likes. So we want to ensure that, that trust system is in place on the platform, and folks can actually, and I believe it's going to be like a currency for folks, because they will look at it as, once the platform starts to view me as untrustworthy, then my voices will, or whatever I'm writing or I'm saying on the platform, my activities will not necessarily be amplified by the platform. So part of what we're doing, a huge part of what we're doing, has to do with developing algorithms to do these things and make these determinations. As regards being the mouthpiece of one party or the other, I think with the way we've constructed ourselves, it's going to be literally impossible for us to do that. Because as much as you could have one voice on this side of the political spectrum, we don't limit the other side from coming up. And so the hope and the actual essence of what we're doing is we want to create an arena for different views to be aired on the platform. And that's why the debate is so central to what we're doing here. So we want to ensure that there's always people on the other side, right, that are also expressing their opinion and doing it in a respectful way. And when things start to get disrespectful and the likes, they can always report that. And I think that would also affect that global trust on that platform as we see it. And so I think it would discourage people from going that route and being abusive and the likes of it. But what we want to encourage is that discussion, the debate, having those policy issues and those differences aired. Because when we make those differences aired, that's when we understand what the other person is saying, and when we can kind of reach a compromise or at least have an understanding of the way we should move forward.
Okay. I would like to invite Mustafa. Mustafa, can you unmute yourself and speak, please?
Okay, hello.
Hi.
Hi, okay, thank you very much. So thank you very much for your presentation. First of all, I will commend you anyway, because basically I think we need more of this anyway. But just to try and place my question in some of like a thought, because I have so many things I have to just condense into one sentence. Basically, it's almost like we've seen the same question, but you said something about national security, which usually is always an excuse it gets when it comes to topical issues. And so that's probably leading me on to the form of independence, because I saw another question basically that was asking about, when I say Western interference and stuff like that. Second part is, how do we pivot from this? Because one of the things I've observed is where I think we are living in different planets sometimes. So the data speaks against us. So basically we have quite a number of people that are not literate, and we have some people who are like, okay, they're trying to make a change. So how do we make sure we can do this connection between where everyone is involved, even though they may not probably be directly giving you their opinions to the platform, but the representation of what ideas are brought up there are more of a reflection of what people are experiencing, not just let's say biased view. And sorry, this is the last question. We come from a society where we are very conscious of playing religion and ethnic card. And I'm trying to see how you actually really want to let's just probably go back to maintaining that independence, because whether you like it or not, it's definitely going to come up. So those are the questions probably I've them in just one.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the question, Mustafa. I think it's very important for Veegil to continue to maintain independence, and non-partisan nature and approach, because we understand that building this platform and being a custodian of it means we are like an umpire in the game. We're like the referees in this game. So we don't want to come as an organization and appear to people to look like we're on one side or the other. So we play that middle ground. So as I've said, what we're trying to do here is to facilitate the discussions and the conversations. So we want to encourage people to feel empowered, right? To air their opinion, to discuss their views, because we feel when they do that, then their views can get more traction, right? And that may lead some political leaders or themselves to say, okay, this thing has a lot of platform. Let's look at ways in which we could implement this policy change, or we could basically implement this agenda that we have. I think that addresses that question. You asked another question about how we're going to deal with folks that are not maybe as literate or not maybe online using computers and stuff. I think that's a legitimate concern. And that's something we would work to achieve, right? As I mentioned earlier, one of the things we want to do is to make sure the platform is accessible to people with the lowest of devices, right? Whether you're using a 2G network or whatever, we want to make sure it's, as much as it's available in graphical format, we want to make sure that the website will be available in text formats too, so that they can engage in those conversations. Another way to look at it is the reason why some people may be disenfranchised, when you put it that way, from participating on the platform is if we focus on using maybe English as the sole language on the platform. One of the things that is near and dear to me is to see a way in which we could actually have other languages. As I mentioned, like for instance, French, to be able to get people to use the platform that way and be able to understand the different things we've written everywhere. Make sure the platform is in multiple languages. We want to ensure that people can use whatever language of their choosing, whether it's a language in Gambia, in Ghana, or Sierra Leone, or any part of Africa at all. I want to make sure that people have access, right, to be able to write in however that they can. I think it's very instructive for us to actually make sure that translation and automatic translation of things people write to be possible on the platform. I think that will ensure that others can actually jump on the platform, right? So whether it's someone wanting to speak in Pidgin English or in Hausa or Fulani or any of Swahili, for instance, you should be able to write it on the platform, and someone else should be able to get an interpretation of what you've written in their own language and be able to understand.
Okay. I would like to invite Jalili to speak. Jalili, can you unmute yourself and turn on your video to speak, please?
So I may not be able to turn on my video. Thank you so much, Mr. Dr. Abdulrazaq, for this wonderful initiative. I have two questions. So the first question is, you've been mentioning website. And the impression I got listening to you is that you are setting up a platform that parallels something like a WhatsApp, that parallels something like Signals. If that is the case, what is the differentiating factor between the platform you're putting on and existing platforms like WhatsApp, Signals? And what do you think would motivate people to embrace this new engagement platform, and not things like WhatsApp and signals and the like. And finally, we've spoken so much about the utility of the information on the platform for data for policy articulation. You also indicated that folks in the business arena could use such a data to understand the potential customers' reaction to innovate to the product they want to introduce to market. So is there a way that you are converting this data to such a business decision tool or a policy decision tool? If there is, could you please elucidate briefly on that? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. So, the first question you were talking about, whether what we're creating is a parallel to Signal or WhatsApp. So when I say website, I'm just, using that, basically, symbolically to refer to the platform. Right. So the platform is not going to be available just on a website, on a web browser. We're actually currently developing a mobile app that we're also going to be, putting out there for people to be able to access and engage in their civic engagements on the platform. These mobile app, I believe, will help us to be able to penetrate more into the social space, the online social space, if you may. But what we're creating is not necessarily an alternative to WhatsApp or Signal, since those are like just plain communication, person-to-person communication tools. But we're going to be offering a similar a use case in which one could actually be discussing with a group of people, right? The way we hope is, we've seen typically that a lot of people tend to react more to using apps on their phones, and so these are we feel that will help us in engaging more people on the platform, right? The ease that comes with it, things like having them sign up on their private mobile devices simply and not necessarily have to sign up back and forth again. As someone mentioned in a question earlier, you can just sign up once and just forget about it. You're signed up, right? Just the same way we use WhatsApp and Signal. So in that case, we hope to be able to get users on the platform, like through that channel. We are also, when it comes to the other question where you mentioned about people being able to make business decisions or policy decisions, I'll go from the perspective of let's say someone running for an office or whatever, and coming to our platform to use these tools, these campaign tools I was talking about. Of course, we'll provide them with those analytics, with those issues that people are discussing about, and of course ask for their input on that. So we hope they could use that to basically construct their manifestos, signal to them on what issues people in their polity care about, and they can focus on discussing about that. As regards business, I think generally businesses just follow wherever people are, right, online. So we are not going to be providing people's information or data to any business, right? But things like what is being discussed about, or the general public information on what the topical issues are, we may use that to inform businesses on where they might want to, maybe advertise their products or talk about certain issues that they care about. Those kind of general data points are things we would use for them, but not specific personal user information.
All right, thank you. I have a question. How do you hope to monetize this? Is it like a nonprofit, or you are going to have an opportunity for business to advertise on it? Is that how you hope to monetize it?
Yeah. So we hope, of course, to be able to provide opportunities for businesses to advertise on the platform. So that's one of the primary channels in which we hope to monetize it. But in other forms, we look at the opportunities we'll be giving, especially to maybe people seeking office and stuff like that. That want to really expand their campaigns. The platform will be a good place for them to be able to, chip in a few dimes and get to expand their voices on the platform. So that's another way in which we hope we can monetize the platform. But we believe it's a platform that will be able to thrive, and we hope to see it grow in the coming years.
Oh, okay. We have one last question from Juliana. She would like to know if there will be data summary for quick checks without reading all the comments that comes in. Like, say, would the platform allow for, like, say, a summary of ideas in terms of bar chart and pie chart and all those things, so that I don't need to scroll through every comment that people have to put there?
Yes. That is something we're working on at the moment. It's something you're going to see hit the platform basically in coming weeks. So as I mentioned before with the debate, one of our goals is we want people to be able to make sense of the conversations, and we want that to be very easy. So we're going to be providing a lot of graphical visualizations with which they can actually make sense of the debates going on. And we will be having a rating system in which people can easily upvote certain commentaries and basically aggregate that to form a summary that people can easily go to and understand the crux of what's being discussed. So that's something we're actually working on right now at the moment.
All right. So thank you so much, Abdulrazaq. This has been very insightful, and we like the fact that you want to expand civil engagement and also holding our government accountable beyond beyond the comfort of just social media, but you are introducing something new for us to actually propose policy decision making, and we would like to applaud you for that. So to our audience, please make sure to check out Veegil. It's on veegil.com. To see some of the conversation that are already taking place. And to our audience, I would like to say thank you so much for joining us on Hangouts. We hope you come again in 2 weeks for the next Hangout. In the meantime, please remember to hit that subscribe button to subscribe to Leaders of Africa YouTube channel, and also join our Discord community to continue the conversation and for future programs alert. And also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time.